in July 2006 while participating in a Carmelite meeting in the Kenyan capital of Nairobi. We went one of the days to a home, a children's home, on the outskirts of the city. The name of the home was Mbani. And there were children who were HIV positive, which could cause AIDS. And this turned out to be a visit that left a mark on all of us. And I went round to a number of the small houses where the children were very sick in bed. It was an opportunity maybe to have a word with each of them, to sit, maybe to hold their hand, to give them a smile. I wondered why I was thinking of this on this second Sunday of Advent. And it was at a particular moment during that visit, at the end of which we were invited to go into a small room, and about 20 of the children had said they wanted to sing for us. And so they sang, but it was only when they sang the song that they sang that I discovered that everyone in the room was weeping. The song they sang was "We Shall Overcome." That incident came to mind because the words of this second Sunday begin with these words: "Console my people, console them, says your God. Speak to the heart of Jerusalem and call to her that her time of difficulty is ended." The prophet Isaiah reminds us that our God is a God of consolation, a God who desires to be with us and to console us in the darkest of moments. There are two words that speak from the scripture today and from our experience. One is compassion and the other is consolation. There are in fact two sides of the one coin. One is a silent emotion that we feel, compassion. Consolation is when we reach out and we do something about it. We've heard the cry and we come to console. We felt compassion, but the staff and the international volunteers in Unban brought comfort, caring, consolation, and tenderness. Compassion may be a feeling, but consoling is urging us to do something about it, not just to feel it, but to care and to remove all the obstacles for the love of God to enter into our hearts. Isaiah is the prophet of restoration. He is the prophet who calls us back to the normal. He's the prophet who speaks to us that after all was lost in Israel because of their waywardness, they had lost their country, their temple for worship, their political control, and even their security. And God says to the prophet, "Console my people. Tell them their time of difficulty is over." It is an action that God does, comes to us. And in Advent we invite him to come. And in inviting him to come, we are told by the prophet that God will come. St. Mark in his Gospel today speaks of this as glad tidings, just as the prophet Isaiah announces glad tidings. St. Mark begins his Gospel today with the words glad tidings, which literally means gospel. But the gospel is not just an idea, it's a person. It's Jesus Christ, the God who comes to console us. And the God invites each one of us to be a living gospel, to bring consolation to God's people. Beyond compassion, there is consolation. And we've seen over the last number of months so many people who just didn't feel compassion for those who caught COVID-19. The doctors, the nurses, the teachers, carers, people who brought so much consolation to people and gave them hope. That requires an awful lot of generosity and love. And I've always believed that generosity is part of the DNA of the Christian people. And I think it has also passed into the DNA of the Irish people, because we've seen so many moments and acts of generosity over these last number of months. It's part of our DNA. Advent is the expectation of Christmas, of Christ coming. If we take the word Christmas and get rid of Christ, then we put an X through Christ and it becomes Xmas without Christ. Console my people is the message as we begin and enter into the fullness of this Advent season. Creating a home for God to come during this season. The word Umbani, the name of the place, the home where the children was, means in Swahili, home. The God who comes found no room in the inn, but he did find the love of the mother, the father, and of the people. St. John of the Cross puts it very beautifully. We have to make a roadway, a pathway, through the difficulties of the heart in order to receive the Christ child. And in this beautiful little poem, he says, if you meet the Virgin coming down the road, ask her into your house. She bears the word of God. Ask her into the Umban, into the home that is waiting for you. At the end of our little visit to the home in Nairobi, I looked to the side of the children singing. There was a little chappie, small little chappie, who was seated all alone, not singing. So I went over, sat beside him, said, hello, I'm John. What's your name? No reply. I reached out and I said, gave him a smile. He still sat there, no reaction. What could I do? I just sat for a moment, sat with him, and then we left. As we were leaving, I asked some of the staff about him, and they said both his parents had died of AIDS, and they had found him abandoned on the roadside in the capital of the city. He had just come to them. I am quite certain that the love, the generosity, and the consolation of those people in that home in Nairobi is the consolation God asks us to give to others in this Advent time. And with that, they and we